things. At least somebody like Keith Hardy that was reelected to the board, and I was happy to see that. It takes a little more interest in what's actually taking place inside the school, not just well, we'll set policy based on what the administration or the superintendent tells us. See, the way school districts are set up, the school board really only has one employee, that's the superintendent. And everybody in the district then is under the purview of the superintendent. So the rest of the district owes their total allegiance to the superintendent, not to the representatives of the people, the school board. And then when you have the school board members that aren't engaged and don't take an active role in managing what's happening in the schools, you have a mess. And so you have this constant reinventing of the wheel every 5 years when they hire a new superintendent. You have a whole new philosophy come in, and what the last superintendent did was no good, and we're going to have a new roadmap here, and of course then when we're done you'll get a new superintendent and they'll have a new roadmap, and it goes on and on and on. So that's where you are with St. Paul. You have two new board members that there, so you had 4 elected, two that were on the board or are on the board, and 2 new board members. I suspect the 2 new board members are just going to be the same ilk. The people that really were running, that had a core philosophy that were going to be active in straightening the district out, of course the system doesn't support those people, and they don't get elected. It's always more of the same, more of the same. So we're going to talk about some of these school districts, these different levy questions, and I brought in one of the sample ballots, and we're going to talk about the the disclaimer that's always on the bottom of these. The discussion I had with some people that next election, see, you can challenge these ballot questions prior to the election. You can't challenge them after. So we need to start challenging the wordage that is used to distort the truth and the facts on these ballots. So we're going to talk about that. But as long as we have a caller, let's take our call. And caller, are you with us? Question or comment?
Thanks, Bob. I always enjoy your show. And like everybody I know, the day after election, they want to watch your show to see how you analyze it, because there's always, you have a lot of inside information. And so everybody I know in the government has their channel tuned on to you tonight. Wow. Hey, on this school issue, this John Broderick, is he from the St. Paul School Board?
Yes.
Every time I run into him at parties, he's always saying he did stuff. He was a teacher, I guess. He did stuff to students in his classes that he would never be able to get away with doing nowadays. And I have no idea what he's talking about. But it's like he kind of insinuates that he had a corporal punishment in his classrooms. The other thing I'm kind of curious about, and I'm looking to see if you have some comments on, what happened in that Maplewood race. That was a fascinating race because it looks like the city dumped nephew because he became too much of a liability with his big head and I'm smarter than you attitude to actual city officials and to like that city councilman Kathleen Juneman. And as far as Kathleen Juneman, how do you read that Cardinal went into cahoots with Copen? I mean, he used to always consider him kind of like the town drunk, and he would come to meetings half out of it. And so how did Cardinal hook up with him? And both those guys, they're so shy and introverted. The question is, why are they so afraid of Kathleen Juneman that Kathleen Juneman just rolls her eyes at him and they shut down? I know that Kathleen Juneman used to always call Marv Copen, Mr. Marv Copen, howdy doody, but I could never figure out why he could never respond to that. Thanks, Bob.
All right, caller, you put a lot out there for me to answer. We thought about taking and getting a piece of film clip, you know, Oscar the Grouch in the garbage can, and I was going to do a takeoff of that with John Nephew in the garbage can. We didn't have time. I mean, folks, the amount of hours you put in to do this show, and we have all these wonderful ideas, and a lot of them, because of time constraints, don't happen. You know, it's interesting that people are already comparing, hang up the phone, are already, that should be an automatic control room. The people are already comparing Marv Copen and Bob Cardinal. You know, this is a throwback to one of the original consuls before Mayor Diana Longry, consulperson Rebecca Cave, who I have to add would have been the best to get back on that consul. She came in third, only 200 votes behind, and we have more phone calls, they're saying. It was interesting that I know the dollar amounts, that some of the dollar amounts, and we're going to talk about this further down the road. The one that really fell down in this whole process was John Nephew. And, you know, I have a couple pieces here that somebody gave me from John Nephew's website, and so we're going to read those. But again, I'm looking for somebody, and we have some film clips from a debate, and there's a couple questions that were posed there, and then we'll take off from there. But, and I am going to go back to St. Paul Schools after we do some of this Maplewood stuff. I want to talk about the French immersion school. So the interesting part there is that I believe Rebecca spent, her campaign spent about $1,200, and that money was strictly from individuals. Marv Copen, Bob Cardinal were the recipients of probably about, I'm going to guess, $6,000 to $10,000, and a lot of that came from the organized trash haulers. And of course, you have to remember when we do this process that even with that kind of money put in by the trash haulers, you have to remember when John Nephew got on the console, the closest we could tell, the employees union spent over $100,000. So this is what's interesting, that John Nephew, and this is from his website, like I said, this was provided to me. As I've said before, these outside corporations, of course these are Maplewood corporations, are meddling in our elections because they want to intimidate other local governments. They want to protect their own profits and scare other city officials away from scrutinizing their business practices. All right, now first of all, these people are not on the receiving end of government like city employees that, like I just got through saying, contributed $150,000 to the election process. John Nephew had no problem with that process when city employees actually received the taxpayers' dollars. With the trash haulers, they're out there engaged in private commerce, and with the citizens having the right to contract to whoever they want. Now, so John Nephew is a hypocrite when it comes to understanding that. Then that was posted November 8th on his site. November 9th, okay, that would be today. It says, I believe our system of government relies on representatives who are willing to do the right thing even when it may not seem popular. So see, this is the problem with a representative government. You get these people elected, first of all, they get in there, they have no core philosophy that they've ever articulated. So from one minute to the next, you have no clue of where these people are going to be on any given issue. And that's why I support somebody like Ron Paul for president, because he articulates a core philosophy. You know what he's going to do on any and every situation. You might not agree with him 100%, but at least you know where you are with the person. John Nephew and so many, especially down at the state legislature or school board members, they get in there on this ruse of that I'm going to take care of the when the school district's situation, the education of our students. They have no clue about the operation of a school district. So these representatives like John Nephew totally ignore the wishes of the people. Once they get elected, they feel that, oh, I'm here because I'm smarter than the citizens that elected me, and so King Nephew, which was, I should have brought in that campaign piece. The trash haulers did a nice mailer that had John Nephew the king. And that's exactly what he thought. He thought it didn't matter that the citizens, the taxpayers of Maplewood, overwhelmingly wanted to choose their own trash haulers and didn't want to have government-forced mandated trash hauling pushed down their throat. So that's why he was thrown out. But he's an example of the larger problem out there with this representative, so-called representative form of government. It's not a democracy, and the representatives don't listen to the wishes of the people. I'm waiting for the day when we're so connected that we have a true democracy where everybody can go to their computer or their iPad or whatever and cast their vote on all the issues and have a true democracy. And then we could get rid of some of these, because the issue is here in Maplewood, first of all, you had the unions take and fund their candidates, but now that the corporations fund their own interest of self-preservation, where's the people's candidate? Oh, wait a second, that was Rebecca Cave, and she only received $1,200 from individual people like myself, and so she was the people's candidate. She wasn't put in there by any of the special interests. And so folks, when you keep putting back the same old and expect a different outcome, especially with these levies, and I want to talk about North St. Paul with their $120 million in debt, the fact that they went around to every parent-teacher group at every elementary school and said, you will donate $622 from the Parent-Teacher Association to move this levy forward. Well, that's besides the $20,000 at the school district, and we haven't seen the final figure. It may have been twice that amount to promote this levy. Well, when people give money for the parent-teacher organization, they do it with the intent that, well, maybe it'll pay for a field trip for the kids, maybe it'll buy them some special supplies, maybe some playground equipment, but they don't expect it to be used to raid their pocketbook. And that's what's wrong with the system. The system has all the resources and the means to extract whatever they want by duping the public. Where is the public to have paid staff to get out the other side of the story? Where are they to be able to spend $20,000 or $40,000 on these elections and inform their fellow citizens? See, that's what's wrong with the system. And that's why you have the state legislator from where is it, Farmington, that says these elections have to be on even years so we get a larger representation from the people voting, so we have a broader, less chance that you have these special kind of interests. And I say that because people that are receiving, on the receiving end, always are there asking for it. So you have the parents that have the kids that say, oh, we want the rest of the taxpayers to put out as much as possible, my Billy and Johnny and Susie, to have the best of whatever, never mind how inefficient the system is. All right, so now let's talk about the sample ballot here. This is from North St. Paul, Maplewood. And on the bottom it says there, okay, what are we doing here? I have to watch better which camera we're on. Okay, we'll take a phone call as soon as I do this. It says, by voting yes on this ballot question, you are voting to extend an existing property tax referendum that is scheduled to expire. Now, why isn't it honest and say, this is for voting yes. Why doesn't it say, by voting no, your property taxes will go down $1,300? You know, why isn't it the other side? Why isn't the one here that, there's one of the levies out there, I wish I would have had it, that it says that this levy is supported and approved, and I'm paraphrasing, supported and approved by the head of the Department of Education. Well, come on, folks, what does that have to do with anything? Let's now put down, and so doesn't approve of this. How is that part of the information for voting on a levy? See, that's the distortion that gets away, and these levy questions have to be challenged prior to the election. Next election cycle, we're going to make sure that we look at this and challenge these things. Okay, let's take the phone call. Caller, are you with us? Question or comment?
Yeah, hi, Bob. This is going to be a comment.
Yes.
And I want to send a big thank you out to the voters of Maplewood for letting this dysfunctional city council know that the voters are going to speak one way or another and show them that being king isn't going to keep them in office. And I would like to reiterate to the rest of the council that another vote will be coming up again, and the voters will not forget what's been going on up there. And it is dysfunctional to everybody that's out here. But thank you very much, buddy.
All right, thank you, caller. And you know, that's a sentiment I've heard out there. And so these people like Kathy Dingy and James Lannis and Billy Rosbach, you know, the only reason that, and we're gonna do some research on Marv Copen. The only reason that Marv Copen got in there is because of the effort of the trash haulers, because Marv said that for his own self-preservation, he would vote against this government organized, run trash hauling, garbage hauling. Well, I'm sure Marv only thought about, well, if I'm on the council, I can be on the cable commission, I can get free cable and internet and movies and all that kind of stuff. So but Marv is one of these people that will not fight that position for the trash haulers. He is just there. It's like so many. They buy, the elected official's vote is bought, but the elected official does not know how to articulate the issue and not go and fight for the issue. You know, they could have had Rebecca Cave there, and they would have really had somebody instead of Marv Copen. All right, now, what I want to do is, as long as we're on this school stuff, is this was in, and I talked to the Pioneer Press reporter on this. This is from Monday's paper this week, November 7th. This is about the French immersion school. And this is about, when we talk about this, you need to understand that the parents of the students in the French immersion are very engaged. They're very active in their children's education. So in 6th grade reading, for example, 92% of the French immersion students scored proficient, 33% points above 3rd graders district-wide, and almost 20 percentage point above the state average for that grade. Okay, so now you see the involvement there. But now what's jumped out at me is that they did a breakdown of the students, and it said the school serves 65% white students, that's Caucasian for some of you, to the district's 24%. So St. Paul district-wide, only 24% of the students are Caucasian. Roughly 20% of its students qualify for free and reduced lunch. This is at the French immersion, compared with 70% district-wide. So now, what is the breakdown of the school district? 30% black, 31% Asian, 24% Caucasian, 1 or 2% Native Americans, and the other component, 20-some percent, is Latino, predominantly Mexican. So that's the breakdown. So now, what's the significance of this? Well, you have the school that has these parents that are totally engaged in their children's education process, and not only speak English so the teachers can, but everything is done in French. So what is that really saying? That the rest of the school district has this problem with what I'll call students that a big percentage aren't there to learn. They're there for the parents to have the kids out of the house so they can have their time alone. The kids are there undisciplined, total havoc with the rest of the class, the teachers. So what does this really mean down the road? I look at it and say it means that the retention of teachers. What happens? Yes, you can hire new teachers, but if they're driven out and burned out in 4 or 5 years, what are you going to have? What's the solution to what's going on in the inner city? And then you look out at Matamidi, where everybody is fleeing to, and 26, 27% open enrollment. Where are these students coming from? They're coming from a big portion of them are coming from the first ring suburb schools that perceive Matamidi to be a better district. Well, it's not. The teachers in St. Paul are equal or better to any of the teachers out in Matamidi, but it's the rest of the student body. So we need to keep that in mind when we talk about this. Now, what else do we want to add in here? Oh, I want to, North St. Paul, I mentioned the $622, the $20,000. We have to remember that North St. Paul is $120 million in debt. They're bonding $6 to $12 million a year without levy approval to do maintenance. The maintenance is no longer being funded out of the general revenue. And so the monies that were in the maintenance get moved over to salaries, get moved over out of the maintenance budget. And so now you have this elephant in the room, and I don't know how people can keep approving these levies when they ought to know about the millions that are being taken without them voting on it and without them even knowing about it, along with the $30 million that the district bonded for to cover the teachers' pensions that were never funded. So that's what you have going there. And then look at all the tech levies. I know a lot of people that would love to have a 4-year-old computer and get by with as old a programs as they have, where the districts, how many kids are dissecting frogs and need to have high-speed computers with the latest programs? One thing that's never said is on these tech levies where the money will really be spent on. What are we really buying? It's just technology. Well, in Grant, the mayor, Tom Carr, wouldn't put on the ballot a request to fund road restoration because he said it wasn't specific, designating exactly which road from which corner to to the next corner. And so there, instead of just having a question for should we put aside some money to repair our roads, that wasn't specific enough. Except the school districts can just say, we want a technology levy, but we won't tell you what we're spending it on. Folks, you know, I'm at the point that when somebody says, oh, my property taxes are too high, I just simply say, well, so what did you do about it? What did you do? Don't complain. How did you vote? All right. Let's take, and we have a film clip that they said we've got set up from, we have 2 of them. This is from one of the, this has to do with the Maplewood. Let's run that film clip. This is from last week.
Hey, Bob Zick. First of all, I want to make a statement and then the question. I want to commend the 3 of you for being here. Now, the person that's missing, Marv Copen, I know he received 2 calls from Maplewood citizens. I really resent the fact that somebody chooses to duck and hide from the citizens' questions.
Do you have a question,
now,
please?
Following up with that, the question is that Maplewood has handed out continual pay raises, benefits, 3%, 3%, 3%, 3%. Now, the people in the private sector don't have the luxury of having these kind of increases. Maplewood has, for all practical purposes, 2 city managers. One lives in or has his home in Davis, California. Now, the question would be, with all the planners, with all the engineers up there, and then the city turns around and every time there's a project, goes out and hires a consultant or an engineering company, how would each one of you rein that in? And specifically, Sean Finwell was supposed to have been, her salary was going to be
can you just state the question, sir?
Picked up by grants. Never happened. How are you 3 going to take and put an end to this growth in the city debt, the constant increase in the taxes? I don't care if you want to call it rates or whatever you want to do, John, Rebecca. You know, it's real numbers. So let's get an answer.
Do you guys understand the question, or would you like him?
We played that to show you that this was put on by, was at the Maplewood Library, and there was about 3 times as many people there as at the League of Women Voters. And when they had their debate over at, or forum, candidate forum over at Maplewood City Hall. And so, and then unlike the League of Women Voters, the citizens over here got up and asked the questions. The League of Women Voters, just like similar to what happened in Roseville when there was a forum over there, put in over there on trying to replicate Maplewood having, with government-run trash hauling, they screen the questions. They take, and you write the question down, and then the moderator takes and decides if they're going to use the question. No, at least this one, and this one was done by House District 55, I think it's A or B? A, Republican Party, but it was, they're the ones that sponsored it, but they did it in an open way where questions were not taken and rejected because, we don't deem this one good for the system. A much better approach. Now the other thing, the reason I played this is because Marv Copen deliberately chose to not be there. He had calls from citizens saying, Marv, we expect to see you tonight. Marv was ducking and hiding, and because Marv doesn't have the ability to answer questions. John Nephew can answer questions in his own twisted way, and he's willing to stand before people, but Marv Copen is strictly a hider and does not have the ability to think through questions that he has not been given the answer to. So that's why we played that. Now, I think there was there one more clip on there? Okay, they're setting up another clip, and then we'll play that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to have Lauren Setterstrom come out here, and we have a letter to the editor. This is in the, what is this in here? It looks like the Washington County something or other. Well, Lauren can tell us. I have the article here. It White Bear, Vadnais Heights Press, and so we'll read that when Lauren gets out here. And as soon as this other thing, are we still setting this other one up? Okay, I'll read this, and then we'll talk about it with Lauren. Grant maintains record. Dwayne Miller submitted this as a letter to the editor. Grant, at the November 2nd council meeting, the city of Grant maintained its record of having never spent $1 on overlaying or reconstructing a paved road within the city or township. This despite the fact that some of the roads were built back in 1974. The record has stood for over 37 years, and after the efforts of our Mayor Tom Carr and Councilman Jeff Huber, the record will continue for at least one more year. Mr. Carr and Mr. Huber have done an exemplary job in saving our taxpayers dollars through their prolonged denigrative and acerbic treatment of other councilmen's attempt to address a serious problem. Our city continues to be a great example of how our country should have saved hundreds of billions of dollars. Just stop taking care of our assets. Do buildings like our state capitol really need to be reconstructed so it has a leaky roof, structural cracks, and and needs painting. Why update it? Can't we just wait to replace it after it falls down? That will take several years and it will become someone else's problem, not ours. Let's not talk about replacing decaying bridges until they collapse. It worked on the I-35 bridge. Why not on all bridges? Same thing goes for roads. Yep, the rest of the country could learn a lot from these leaders in the city of Grant. So there you go. Somebody's not happy with Mayor Tom Carr and Councilman Jeff Huber, and Lauren Setterstrom is with us. And I know what they mean here when they say denigrative and acerbic treatment of others. I mean,
it was really interesting. We have a new road commissioner out there. Steve Boner was a new council member. He took over doing the owner's job of being the road commissioner. The last one quit and took a lot of, didn't leave anything there. As a matter of fact, we used to have, this came out in the last meeting, we used to have these little counters, so you could do a road count, how many cars, and that would obviously put feedback so you know how soon to repair the road. It just makes sense. Well, those have disappeared. There's no previous data from the last 4 or 5 years, so we know what's been done, what hasn't been done. They have a system where when a road gets too bad, they no longer even pothole it anymore. I mean, right now they're potholing the roads that are somewhat salvageable, and if it gets too bad, they just totally forget it.
They take a paved road and turn it back into gravel.
Well, they've done that, and that was a real issue till they suddenly realized, well, wait a minute, you cannot levy against the residents for denigrating the road, for turning it back to gravel. You can charge them if you pave it, because that's a property improvement. But you can't charge them, and it's running about 60% of the cost to pave a road to turn it back to gravel because you have to remove that.
So
that's become 40%. An issue.
And they can't back charge it. Before we go on here, are we ready with that? Okay, there's one more clip from this. This is, I believe, Bob Cardinal, who was elected, former mayor.
Garbage hauling. First off, I like you, John. I like you as a person. I like your wife, Michelle. I like Marv Copen. I served with him. He and I ran against each other for mayor. I like Marv. I have met Rebecca Kay for the first time tonight, right?
Yes.
So I like, we have to remove this animosity here a little bit. What I'd like to ask is, after the election, are you going to listen to the will of the people?
Well, I think there was a question, though, from the gentleman out in the audience.
Well, I felt the same way.
That was the issue. That's the issue with John Nephew. Are you going to listen to the will of the people? Or are you going to continue thinking that you're King Nephew and that you're smarter than the people, and it doesn't matter what the will of the people is? When 70, 80%, 60% want to be able to hire their own trash hauler, are you going to listen to the people? Are you going to tell them, no, I know what's best for you? There you go. All right, let's go back to...
Well, the interesting thing about this is Mr. Boner has been very diligent. He's been driving the roads to find out the conditions, looking for the records which he can't find, and trying to develop a road policy. Well, the mayor and Mr. Huber have just come down on him, been very, well, even somewhat vindictive, acerbic in the treatment of him, been very harsh in the...
Denigrative.
Oh, absolutely. And the guy's trying to do a good job. He's been handed a situation where there are roads that have been put in 1974, they're spider cracked into nothing, and nobody wants to do anything about it. I went at public comment, and one of the things I said is, we have a transportation problem. Both cars and roads need maintenance. And what we're talking about here is the $39 a year per 100, or $29 a year per 100,000. It's basically, if you have a $200,000 house, that's the price of an oil change to put towards mending the roads. And obviously, if there's a backlog, it's going to take a while, but it'll be a dedicated fund and we can ultimately catch up. But if it gets to be too bad it's going to be exactly like the 35 bridge. It falls down, then what in the world do you do? And we both know after that happened how they rerouted the traffic, how it was really, bad situation. And now and I can see it coming next fall. They're going to be running a campaign and, oh, you're trying to raise taxes and we got to get these guys out of here, and they're making a big hullabaloo about that. And, it's kind of like, comes back to the old citizenry. I don't know what apathy is and I don't give a damn. When you look at these levies that were passed, they passed that school referendum last year by 22 votes. The only way they got that is they let the 285 seniors out in April for a vote to get the thing passed, and it was a $48 million deal.
The kids got the rest of the day off?
Yep, they gave them the day off so if they would go vote. Well, the problem is, everybody they're not telling you the full story like you've been saying what they're going to do. Well, the people now are being upset, getting somewhat upset when they find out about the football field. They dug down 4 feet, put 3 foot of P-rock, a foot of sand, put AstroTurf. I don't know if that's so the cheerleaders won't graze at halftime or what, I'm not sure. but they just go so overboard, and here it is, a sports complex is what they're really developing, and there was even talk of an indoor ice arena, and then they're putting the elementary school way down there in a swamp, and what they're doing is
in an old dump site,
they're empire building, and they're bringing this fab lab to the...
See, now, at the coffee shop, I heard these people talking about the superintendent Larson, and saying, he's really about building this empire, about moving up the ladder, a bigger school district, or maybe a job down there at the Department of Education. That's really what he's accomplishing here. How to run a school district with 27% open enrollment, how to pass levies, that book. We should have brought that book out here. How to manipulate the outcome of these things, how to take the seniors that are old enough to vote and put them on a bus and take them down there and tell people it's teaching them civic affairs.
Well, it's resume building. And, this guy's so off the wall, the superintendent, like he was, when I was running a planning commission meeting, he said, well, and we're teaching the second graders chemical engineering. We're teaching them how to make Play-Doh. Well, that's a little far-fetched, and I understand, kids need to learn things. They're throwing this fab lab, and there's going to be an open house 1 to 3 on Saturday, by the way, for this fab lab.
At the schools?
At the
high school?
No, at the elementary school where it's going to be, so they can make action figures, and that's wonderful. But by the time these kids get to be seniors, that'll be outdated. And I did, in fact, speak with Mark Larson, and he was telling me that, well, there was a flyer that went out that, all that wasn't factual. There were some inaccuracies in there, and he couldn't point them out. I might say that the taxes have doubled in 4 years. We went from $2.9 million to 6.5, and it coincides with open enrollment. He's telling everyone, oh, we make $1,800, which in fact is a bald-faced lie, because it costs $4,800 per student to bring them in out of district. And why, when the rest of the state averages 3 to 4% open enrollment, why they're up to 26, 27?
Something, I was talking to somebody, and they said that somewhere in the state literature that open enrollment was supposed to be about 1%. I forget where they found that, but that was...
I think that was initially surrounding when they passed the statute back in the beginning 90s. I think it was 90, 91, and that's what they're going. Now look at...
So they went from the standard of 1%, statewide I think it's 3.5%, 4%, ran it up to 27. Now, I look at Stillwater.
That's what I was going to next mention too.
Okay, three levy questions. Go ahead.
3 levy questions failed. Now the thing that is really hurting Stillwater on top of this, 150 students approximately come from Stillwater to go to Mahtomedi. And again, what's really interesting, everybody's saying, well, how great the school district is. There's, a bunch of bells, whistles, and buzzers, that's true. But if you look at the core instruction, of the 14 school districts in the Twin City area, along with Roseville, they had the last hours of core instruction, which is 123. The other school districts had 158. So what they're doing is they're minimizing core instructions and putting more of this fluff in. Matamidi is. Okay, and look at the numbers, okay? You go to Stillwater, there's about 850 kids in the class. Okay,
no, wait, not in a given classroom.
Not classroom, grade, I'm sorry.
In a grade.
In a grade, okay, there's 850 students in a grade. Okay, I think in Matamidi there's 285. Now, if you want Johnny to play football, are his chances better against 850 or once against 285? So you'll see that there are a lot of people are sending their kids for the sports, and it isn't
on the new athletic field.
Yes, and it isn't 1/10 of 1% that ever go on.
Lauren, let me ask you a question here. Let's say a district like Matamidi raids Stillwater students. What would happen? I always say, for an argument, and we have a phone call, and for an argument to be valid, it just can't be valid in the center. It has to be valid out on each end. Mm-hmm. So let's take Stillwater, for example, and say Matamidi was able to pull all the students from Stillwater, all of them. And so now Stillwater could close down all their schools, and their taxpayers wouldn't have to fund anything. You know, think about it.
That's true.
And they wouldn't have the problem of over half of your property taxes go to the schools.
53%.
So they'd have a 53% savings by sending all their kids over to Matamidi. And then Mark Larson could elevate himself, you know, maybe he could get down to the get up to the national education, you know,
level.
Well, on the president's, you know, one of the president's commissions or something like that. The Department of Education.
Yep.
Maybe that's where he's headed. I don't know.
Well,
let's take a phone call.
Okay.
Caller, are you with us? Question or comment?
Generally, when you speak, you have video clips to support what you're saying, and that's really good because I've noticed that most other talk show hosts never have any clips. They just kind of have ideas and ideologies. But where is this information in the Matamidi school district? Is there clips? Are they having? We know how these school districts and other governments have backroom meetings and private chamber meetings. They break the Minnesota open meeting law with serial meetings. You show us how they don't do their members don't do their homework. The citizens come up there and they've done their homework, and the school board members or the city council members or the county government members, they're just slitting open a little packet they got from the government, looking at it the first time. And my question to you, when are you going to have video clips of this Mark Larson so we know what he is? Is he lying to us, Bob, or is he tricking us? Is he duping us? You're kind of saying all these things, but we don't see him doing it. I mean, if he has a frog computer program and he needs how many $1 million technology levy so he can buy this software, what does that mean? Are the school board members going along with him? Thanks, Bob.
All right. Well, we did have a film clip where we went out and, of course, Superintendent Mark Larson threw the camera out of the like the caller said, back room, closed door meeting.
Well, and that was a very good question. And one of the things where I've been getting my statistics is we took it from the district.
And by the way, we showed on this show the superintendent doing that, telling the citizens, you're not invited to see the secret meetings that we have with the mayors like Tom Carr. And Tom Carr he also said, no, you're right. We don't want the citizens to see what we do in the back room here, what plans we make for their money and their future.
Well, and that's a good point. And what we're reduced to doing is taking information from them. It's audited. You know, we took it from the audit, the tax, and that's where we got it. We got it from the printed material. And so that's how we've gotten with some of the statistics we have with the doubling of the taxes. But, you know, you brought up a very good point. They didn't say that they were not going to, you know, how if you didn't vote for this, they just said that it would reduce the taxes. They said, well, it'll stay the same. In the comment you made on the ballot. And it's going to be real interesting to see. Stillwater traditionally has had higher class sizes, okay? They've had run a little bit leaner. Well, now when they're losing all three levies, one of the few, 80% of the levies in the metropolitan area passed. But now Monomedi's passed and Stillwater didn't, so I would assume that would exacerbate the exodus from Stillwater. They're going to want to, you know, supposedly send them over there. But again, let's tie this into another myth that they have, educational myth, and they've been perpetuating this for years. Well, go to college and that's the answer. Well, skill development and training is. If you look at the Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Minneapolis, when you were talking to those young people and you interviewed them, their problem is they have their 4-year degree, they got their sheepskin, and they don't have a job. They're saying, hey, we want opportunity. Well, they've been sold an educational myth. Like when I was at White Bear, they were so excited, oh, 66% of our kids go to college. Well, yeah, but only 25% completed, so two were dropping out for every one that completed, and then you look at that 1 in 4, and how many of them got jobs anyway, unless they had specific skill training along the way.
We have a call. Let's grab it before we run out of time here. Caller, question or comment?
I got a comment for you, Bob.
Yes.
The thing that kills me is that people don't realize the school districts lie to the people all the time. They say, oh, your taxes aren't going to go up. Everything's going to be hunky-dory. You know, you're not going to spend any more money. Well, that's a false statement. It's a lie.
And caller, you're right. Just look at your tax statements. Take your tax statements out from previous years. That the game they play
You think it's not going to go up every year? Give me a break.
All right, thanks, caller.
Well, you know, education is a labor-intensive process.
Do Monomedi. In 2006, there was, what,
2.9 million is what?
In 2010, it went
6.5.
6.5 million. So did it go up or not? Did your property tax, somebody had to pay it.
Oh yeah, you look at your tax statements, and after this last bond pass for the 48 million, people were looking at their taxes statements and saying, ouch, that hurt. But
boy, I'll tell you, when I was out in Delwood out there and saw those big houses, I mean, those are, the cheap house is 600, probably 2 million, somewhere in that price range. I'd like to see their tax statements, probably what, 10, 15, 20,000 a year?
I live across the street from an individual that is related to the mayor of...
15 seconds, wrap it up.
He was proud that he was paying $8,000 a year. He wanted to know, well, who pays the most tax in the block? He paid $8,000 and he was happy about it.
I'm your host, Bob Zick. With me is Lauren Setterstrom. And of course, we'll be back next week with all new material, and we'll follow up on some of the issues we started tonight. As always, keep your questions and comments coming, and have a good week until next Wednesday. Good night.
Here. Well, of course, Off the Record News is my program that I've had for now going on 9 years. And so that's live every Wednesday night at 7:30. And that's a lot of fun. I bring in folks from the community who have many things to talk about, and they could be nonprofit organizations, citizens, elected officials, candidate hopefuls, people from all walks of life, because everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has information to get out to the community. And then in the past, I had a program that was called Inside China, and that is currently doing replays, because I've had a number of people say, you know, I really miss the Inside China show. I'd like